The great halls of the Galactic Council were silent that day. On one side stood the tall, proud figures of the Valkyrie, a warrior race known across the stars for their strength and honor. On the other side stood the humans, smaller in size but unmatched in spirit and determination. The long war between the two had cost too many lives. Now both sides were ready to end it, but the peace demanded something symbolic. A union between the two races. A marriage. Princess Liara of the Valkyrie was chosen to represent her people. She was a skilled commander, daughter of the High General, and had led several battles herself. She had no interest in marriage, especially not to a human. But her people needed peace, and she was loyal to her duty. The chosen human was Captain Ethan Ward, a decorated soldier who had earned respect even among his enemies. He was not from a noble line, but from a humble Earth colony. The council had chosen him because he represented the spirit of humanity, brave, loyal, and compassionate. When Ethan heard the proposal, he accepted without hesitation. He believed peace was worth any sacrifice. The marriage ceremony was held on neutral ground. The moon of Serenine, a peaceful world of silver lakes and quiet skies. The hall was filled with leaders, soldiers, and witnesses from both sides. Liara entered wearing armor instead of royal robes. She looked like a warrior, not a bride. Her silver eyes met Ethan's calm brown ones, and for a brief moment, the room seemed to fade around them. Ethan bowed slightly before her. "Princess Liara," he said respectfully. She did not bow. "Captain Ethan Ward," she replied, her voice cold and steady. They exchanged vows, simple and official. No emotion, no warmth. When the ceremony ended, Liara turned away first. Her people cheered for peace. The humans clapped with hope. But inside, Liara felt trapped. To her, this was not a union, it was a chain. After the ceremony, they were taken to a shared residence, a quiet dwelling at the edge of the peace base. It was large, but empty, designed for privacy. The silence between them was heavy as they entered. Ethan placed his helmet on a table and said softly, "I know this is strange for you. It's strange for me too, but I hope someday you won't see me as an enemy." Liara didn't answer. She walked to the window and looked out at the moons. "You humans talk too much," she said quietly. "Words don't make peace. Strength does." Ethan gave a small smile. "Then maybe strength brought us both here?" Her gaze flicked toward him, measuring him. He didn't speak like a soldier showing dominance. There was no arrogance, no attempt to impress her. That confused her more than any insult could have. In her culture, warriors boasted of their strength. Humans seemed to carry it quietly. He went to the corner and began removing his armor piece by piece. The metal plates clinked softly as he cleaned and stored them. Liara watched, pretending not to, noticing the faint scars on his arms. They were not symbols of pride like her people wore, but signs of experience. He had fought, bled, and survived, not for glory, but for others. That realization unsettled her. Later, Ethan offered her some food. "It's not much," he said, setting it on the table, "but it's fresh. You should eat." "I don't eat human food," she said sharply. He didn't argue. "Then I'll eat mine," he replied with an easy tone. She expected him to insist or to demand she follow custom. He simply sat down and ate quietly. That simple act, his patience, was strange to her. No Valkyrie warrior would stay so calm in the face of rejection. Humans were unpredictable, and Ethan Ward was the most unpredictable of all. Hours passed. The quiet stretched between them. Liara finally turned from the window. "You fought in the Battle of Kethros, didn't you?" she asked suddenly. "Yes," he said, looking up. "It was a hard battle." "My brother died there," she said, her voice flat. "He said a human captain outsmarted him." "That was you?" Ethan froze for a second. His eyes softened. "I'm sorry," he said. "He fought bravely. I remember his banner." Liara narrowed her eyes. "You killed him, and now you apologize?" "I didn't want any of this war," Ethan replied. "I fought because I had to protect my people, just as he did." For the first time, Liara didn't know what to say. She wanted to hate him, but his tone carried no arrogance, only sincerity. He wasn't proud of killing. He carried the weight of it. In her world, warriors celebrated victory. In his, they mourned it. That difference pierced deeper than she expected. Night came quietly. The moons shone through the windows. Ethan set a blanket on the floor, far from her bed, and lay down. She frowned. "You are the husband. You could take the bed," he smiled faintly. "You need rest more than I do. Besides, it's your first night here. You should be comfortable." "Humans are strange," she muttered. "Probably," he replied, turning to face the ceiling. For a long time, Liara didn't sleep. She sat by the window, watching him. He breathed steadily, his expression calm. No human had ever been this close to her before. She wondered how someone could look so peaceful after so many battles. Her people often said humans were impulsive and wild. Yet this one seemed full of quiet strength. She remembered stories told by her elders that humans were born from a harsh world, that they fought not for glory, but survival. Maybe that was what made them so dangerous. But maybe that was also what made them strong. At some point during the night, she shivered. The air on Cyrenine grew cold after sunset. She tried to ignore it, but the chill cut through her armor's underlayer. Then she heard movement. Ethan got up quietly, walked over, and placed a folded blanket near her, without saying a word. "I don't need this," she said, but her voice trembled slightly. "I know," he replied, "but take it anyway." Returned to his place and lay back down. Liara hesitated. In her culture, kindness was often seen as weakness, but this gesture didn't feel weak. It felt genuine. After a while, she pulled the blanket around her shoulders. The warmth surprised her. Not just the blanket, but something deeper. She had spent years surrounded by warriors, advisors, and servants. But none had ever treated her like this without motive or pride. Just simple care. She sat there for a long time, thinking. When she finally lay down to rest, her eyes stayed on him. His breathing was slow and even, like someone who had made peace with the world. She couldn't understand it. How could someone who had killed in war still carry such calm inside? Morning light crept through the window. Liara woke to the sound of movement. Ethan was already up, brewing a hot drink in a small portable unit. The smell was pleasant and unfamiliar. "You're awake," he said with a small smile. "I made something for you. It's safe. I checked your biology files." She frowned, but curiosity got the better of her. She took the cup and sipped carefully. It was warm, a little sweet. "This is acceptable," she admitted. He laughed softly. "I'll take that as a compliment." Liara found herself almost smiling, but stopped. She couldn't allow herself to be soft, not with a human. Yet something inside her was shifting, something she couldn't quite control. Later, they walked together through the base to meet the Joint Council. Soldiers from both races watched them as they passed, some with hope, some with doubt. To others, they were symbols of peace. But to Liara, it felt like walking with her past and her future side by side. Ethan walked with quiet confidence. When someone from his side saluted him, he responded with simple respect, not pride. Liara noticed how naturally he carried himself, not trying to prove anything, just being himself. She began to realize that his strength was not in his weapons or his armor. It was in his character. That evening, they returned to their quarters. The silence between them no longer felt heavy. It felt calm. Ethan worked on a damaged piece of his armor, and Liara watched him again. The way he focused, the patience in his movements, it reminded her of a craftsman, not a killer. After a while, she asked, "Why did you accept this marriage?" "You could have refused." He looked up at her, his expression thoughtful. "Because if I refused, someone else would have to take my place. Someone might not have treated you with respect. I'd rather be the one to try to make peace. Properly." His words hit her harder than she expected. He didn't do it for fame or duty. He did it for peace, for her people, maybe even for her. She looked away quickly, not wanting him to see the confusion on her face. That night, she lay down again. She couldn't stop thinking about his words. She tried to tell herself it was just diplomacy, just human strategy. But deep inside, something had changed. She no longer saw him only as an enemy or a stranger. She saw a man who carried pain but chose kindness anyway. When the lights dimmed and silence filled the room again, she turned slightly toward him. "Captain," she said softly. "Yes," he replied, half asleep. "You fought bravely for your people? I can respect that." He smiled faintly in the dark. "And I respect you, Princess." For standing for yours was a simple exchange, but it felt like the first real bridge between their worlds. Outside, the twin moons rose over Scifi, casting pale light through the window. Inside, the warrior princess and the human soldier rested, two enemies bound by duty. Yet something unspoken was already growing between them. And though neither said it aloud, both knew that this night, their first together, had changed something forever. The morning sun of Scifi bathed the base in a soft silver glow. Liara awoke feeling unusually restless. She had spent the previous night thinking about Ethan, the human soldier who had become her husband, if only in name. She had expected the first night to be filled with cold formality, with distance and silence. Instead, it had been quiet, strange, and peaceful now as she watched him move about the quarters. Checking his armor and equipment with careful precision, she could not stop herself from noticing small things. The way he cleaned each plate of his armor, slowly and methodically, the faint scars along his arms and hands, marks of battles survived, but never celebrated. The calm patience in his movements. Every detail reminded her that he was more than a soldier. He was a human shaped by hardship. Yet he carried himself with compassion. "You're watching me again?" Ethan said, glancing up and giving her a small, "I am." "Observing," Liara replied quickly, hiding any trace of softness in her voice. "It is my duty to know my husband's capabilities." Ethan chuckled softly. "Fair enough. Observation is important for peace." Leora's eyes narrowed. Was he joking? She couldn't tell. Humans were unpredictable. Yet there was no arrogance in his tone, just a simple, honest statement. She found herself unable to respond, so she turned away and focused on her own equipment. Later that day, the council summoned them both for a joint mission. Reports had come in of unusual energy fluctuations near the border of Valkyrie space, a dangerous zone where rogue factions sometimes tested weapons that could disrupt peace. Liara was expected to lead her own troops, and Ethan was to accompany her as part of the human delegation, as they prepared for departure. Liara noticed something she hadn't before. Ethan moved with ease in unfamiliar environments. Unlike other humans, he didn't hesitate or panic in tight situations. He carried a quiet confidence that spoke of experience and careful judgment. The mission began aboard a sleek scout vessel, gliding over jagged mountains and frozen plains. Liara sat in the co-pilot's seat, her eyes scanning the landscape. Ethan monitored the sensors, calm and focused. They communicated rarely, but their coordination was flawless. She began to see him not as a human, not as a soldier, but as a warrior in his own right. Hours into the mission, they received a distress signal. A small Valkyrie settlement had reported a structural collapse near a mining site. Civilians were trapped, and the energy readings suggested a dangerous reactor. This might explode if they didn't act quickly. Leora's instincts kicked in immediately. She gave orders to redirect their squad, but before she could finish, Ethan spoke. "Wait. Let me check the reactor readings first. There may be a safer way to rescue them." Liara glanced at him, curious. His calm voice carried authority, yet it wasn't demanding. It was practical. She nodded, trusting his judgment. Minutes later, he had calculated a safer path and suggested a coordinated approach. Liara followed his plan. As they landed near the site, chaos erupted around them. Dust and debris filled the air, and the sound of groaning metal echoed across the site. Civilians shouted for help, some trapped under heavy beams. Ethan ran forward without hesitation. Liara expected him to give orders or wait for backup. Instead, he lifted a beam off a trapped child, despite his armor being scratched and dented. He checked the child quickly, then ran to help another. His movements were swift, precise, and careful, not reckless. but fearless. Lyra's own instincts screamed at her to act. She joined him, using her strength to lift debris and clear paths. Together, they worked seamlessly, almost without words. When an unstable support began to collapse, Ethan pushed a worker out of the way and took the force himself. Lyra reached him just in time, supporting his weight and steadying him. The human soldier had blood on his arm, but he waved it off. "I'm fine," he said, smiling at the frightened civilians. "You're safe now." Everyone's safe. Lyra felt her chest tighten. She had expected humans to be reckless, to act with arrogance, to fight only for glory. Yet Ethan had risked himself quietly, without boasting, without seeking recognition. His bravery was not for pride. It was for others. She realized she had never seen a warrior like him, one who fought to protect, not to dominate. When the last civilian was evacuated, they returned to their ship. Lyra kept glancing at him. Ethan's calm demeanor never faltered, even as dust and minor injuries coated his armor. He wiped his brow and gave a small smile. "You were incredible," she said, her voice softer than intended. "I'm just doing what's right," he replied. "That's all anyone can do." Her hands clenched slightly. She did not expect to hear something so simple, yet it held more strength than any boastful words. During the return flight, silence stretched between them, but it was no longer tense. It was reflective. Lyra found herself replaying every moment, every decision he had made, every life he had protected, every risk he had quietly taken. He was not only a human, he was a warrior, leader, and somehow he had made her see the human race in a way she had never imagined. That night, back at the quarters, Lyra was quiet. Ethan, noticing her thoughtful expression, offered her a hot drink. She accepted, holding the cup carefully. "You don't have to say anything," he said. "I know you're thinking." Lyra blinked. "Thinking of what?" He smiled softly. "Of what you saw today. That I survived, that people are safe. Maybe of me." Her eyes widened slightly. How did he know? She opened her mouth to reply, but no words came. She felt an unfamiliar flutter in her chest. She turned away, hoping he wouldn't notice. He didn't press further. Instead, he sat nearby, quietly sipping his own drink. There was a strange peace in the room, not of comfort or luxury, but of mutual understanding. Hours later, Lyra finally spoke, almost in a whisper. "Humans, you see things differently. You risk yourselves not for honor, not for glory, but for others?" Ethan looked at her, his expression serious. "We believe protecting life is the greatest honor. Strength means nothing if it isn't used for something meaningful." She stared at him, her mind spinning. His words were not just philosophy, they were lived truth. He had demonstrated them today in every action. She realized she had never met anyone like him, not in her army, not among her people. His courage was quiet, but it burned brighter than any fire she had ever seen. The next morning, Lyra woke before him, watching him sleep. She noticed the faint rise and fall of his chest, relaxed set of his jaw, the small human imperfections that somehow made him perfect in her eyes. She felt an unexpected pull, a desire to stay near him, to protect him as he had protected others. When Ethan stirred and stretched, he noticed her gaze. "You're awake early," he said, smiling. "I am observing again," she replied, hiding the warmth in her voice. He laughed softly, a sound that was oddly comforting. "Then observe carefully. There is more to see than just armor and battle skills." Lyra's heart skipped, though she tried not to show it. She realized with a jolt that her perception of him had shifted. He was no longer a duty, a symbol of peace, or even just a human. He was someone she wanted to understand, someone she wanted near. Later, communication from the Valkyrie High Command arrived. Lyra's father demanded her return. The mission was complete. The human alliance was secured. She was expected to leave Ethan behind and return to her people. She looked at him, expecting disappointment or fear, but Ethan only nodded. "You don't have to stay if you choose your duty," he said quietly. Lyra's chest tightened. Duty was one thing, desire was another. She realized she did not want to leave him. After seeing the human soldier's courage, compassion, and heart, she understood something her warrior upbringing had never taught her. Strength could coexist with kindness, power with patience. That night, she watched him sleep, thinking of the day's events. He had saved lives without hesitation. He had acted selflessly, and he had done so without seeking praise. And yet, he had also earned her respect, her attention, and she feared something deeper. As the twin moons rose over Cyrenine, Liara made a silent promise. No matter what her people expected, no matter what traditions demanded, she would not leave him. Not yet. Not ever, if she could help it. And so, the warrior princess of a proud alien race, sworn to duty and honor, began to see the first crack in her lifelong armor. That crack was not weakness. It was understanding. And it was growing stronger every moment she spent beside Ethan Ward, the human soldier who had quietly stolen her respect, her trust, and perhaps her heart. The sun of Cyrenine rose slowly over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and silver. Liara stood at the edge of the landing platform, looking out at the distant mountains. Her heart was heavy, and her mind raced with questions. The joint mission had ended successfully. The civilians were safe, and peace between the Valkyrie and humans was secured. Yet the celebration of duty and victory was not enough to quiet the storm inside her. Her communicator beeped sharply. The familiar tone of her father's voice echoed through the device. "Princess Liara," her father said, his voice steady but commanding. "Your mission is complete. The human alliance has been secured. You are to return to Valkyrie Command immediately." Liara's chest tightened. She knew this moment would come. Her father had always been strict, unyielding, and proud of Valkyrie traditions. Duty, above all. But now, duty conflicted with something she had never imagined, her own choice, her own heart. "Understand, father," she said, her voice calm but firm. "But I will not return alone." There was silence on the other end. Then his voice, sharp and demanding, broke through. "What do you mean, not alone?" "Your duty is to your people, Liara, not to a human. You are a Valkyrie warrior first." "I am a Valkyrie warrior," she replied steadily. "But I am also someone who has seen courage and honor beyond our traditions. Captain Ethan Ward has fought beside me, saved lives, and shown me what true strength is. I cannot leave him." Her father's silence was longer this time. "You are choosing a human over your people?" "I am choosing what is right," she said, her voice growing stronger. "He is my husband. Not in title alone, but in the bond we formed during this mission. I will not abandon him, father." The communicator clicked off, leaving Liara staring at the horizon. Her people would not approve. The council, the generals, even her closest advisors expected her to follow orders. Yet she felt a strange clarity in her chest. She had seen Ethan's heart. She had felt his courage. And she knew, without doubt, that she could not walk away. She turned toward the quarters. Ethan was waiting, his armor repaired and shining under the morning sun. When he saw her, his eyes softened. "They've called you back," he said quietly. Liara shook her head. "I will not go. Not without you." Ethan took a step closer, studying her face. "Are you certain?" He asked. "Your people. They will not understand. They may see this as defiance." "I am certain," Liara replied. "I have never been more certain of anything in my life. I do not care what my people think. I care about what is right and what is here," she said, placing a hand over her heart. Ethan smiled, warmth in his eyes that made her chest ache. "Then we face them together," he said. The fleet of Valkyrie ships loomed above the base, ready to escort her home. Generals and soldiers gathered, weapons at the ready, expecting the princess to return. But Liara stepped onto the platform, her armor gleaming, her posture unyielding. By her side, Ethan stood tall, quiet, and resolute. The generals approached, their expressions a mixture of surprise and anger. "Princess," one of them shouted, "the human mission is complete. You are to return immediately. This alliance depends on it." Liara raised her voice so all could hear. "The alliance is complete, yes, but my choice is my own. I will not return without Captain Ethan Ward. He has earned my respect, my trust, and my bond. I will remain with him." The generals were stunned. Whispers spread through the crowd. Some Volcari muttered about honor, tradition, and duty. Others simply stared, unsure what to make of her decision. Liara ignored them, her eyes locked on Ethan. Her father's voice came through a loud communicator, full of authority and disappointment. "Liara, this is insubordination. You are endangering the peace agreement and shaming your people. Return now." She lifted her chin, her silver eyes shining with determination. "Father, I am a Volcari warrior. I have fought for my people, and I will continue to do so. But I will not abandon what is right. I will not abandon someone who has shown me courage, honor, and compassion. I will stay." With him, a tense silence followed. Then, unexpectedly, some of the Valkyrie soldiers began to nod, murmuring their agreement. Ethan had fought beside them during the mission. He had saved Valkyrie lives. And now, in this quiet moment, the truth of his strength and character shone through. Even warriors respected courage. One by one, more voices joined. Some officers lowered their weapons, some generals exchanged uncertain glances. Leora's resolve did not waver. She stood tall, her heart racing, yet calm. She had made her choice. Finally, her father's voice softened, though it carried disappointment. "Liara, if this is truly your decision, you will bear the consequences. But know this, your people will judge you. They may never understand." "I am aware," she replied. "But I cannot walk away from what I know is right. And I cannot leave him." The fleet began to withdraw. The Valkyrie ships that were ready to escort her home stayed at a distance. Allowing her to remain with Ethan, soldiers and officers watched in silence as the princess of a warrior race took her place beside a human soldier, not as a subordinate, not as a duty, but as an equal. Ethan reached out and gently took her hand. Liara did not hesitate. For the first time, she felt no fear, only certainty. Together, they walked toward the quiet plains of Surin 9, leaving behind the expectations of the galaxy and stepping into their own future that night. As they sat under the twin moons, Liara spoke softly, almost to herself. "I once believed humans were reckless, impulsive, dangerous. Now I see they are capable of something far greater: courage, honor, compassion." Ethan looked at her, his eyes reflecting the soft moonlight. "And I once believed that warriors only fought for power. Now I know some fight for what is right. Some fight to protect." Liara leaned slightly toward him. "You have shown me that. You have shown me that strength is not just in the body or the weapon, but in the heart." Ethan reached out and brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Then we face the galaxy together," he said simply. Liara smiled, feeling a warmth she had never known in the rigid halls of her palace or the battlefield. For the first time, she felt truly free. Free to choose, free to care, free to be herself beside someone who understood what true courage meant. The next days were peaceful. Liara and Ethan trained together, sharing skills and knowledge. She taught him Valkyrie combat techniques, and he showed her human strategies of patience and precision. Together they learned, adapted, and grew stronger. Soldiers from both races watched, inspired by the unexpected bond between them. Even the youngest Valkyrie warriors began to understand that strength. This was more than brute force. It was strategy, compassion, and courage. And they saw that the human soldier, quiet and unassuming, possessed all of these qualities in abundance. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the quiet plains, Liara turned to Ethan. "I don't regret my choice," she said softly. "I never have. I will stay with you, not just for today, but for all the days to come." Ethan smiled, taking her hand in his. "And I will stay with you, Liara. Whatever challenges come, whatever the galaxy throws at us, we face it together." For the first time in her life, Liara felt no doubt, no hesitation, no fear. She had chosen her own path, and it led her here to a quiet moment of peace, beside a human warrior whose heart was stronger than any army, whose courage had saved countless lives, and whose presence had changed her forever. The galaxy stretched out before them, vast and unpredictable. But Liara knew, as she looked at Ethan, that they could face it all. Together, as equals, as partners, as something far greater than duty alone. And so, the warrior princess of a proud alien race, once bound by tradition and duty, had made her choice. She refused to leave the human soldier who had earned her respect, her trust, and, most importantly, her heart. The night sky glimmered above them, a quiet witness to a bond that transcended worlds, proving that courage, honor, and love were not limited to one race, one planet, or one destiny. They were universal. In that moment, under the light of twin moons, two warriors from different worlds stood together, not as enemies, not as symbols, but as partners, ready to face whatever the galaxy would throw at them. And for the first time, Liara felt truly, completely home.